Oh, hi there, food friends. It's Kevin.
Hey there, I'm Ralph. I'm behind the camera.
And welcome to Cavalcade of Food. So, Ralph, we are going to bake a cake.
Wonderful.
And we are going to do it with a little shortcut, and we do these once in a while using a boxed cake mix. So, the cake we're going to make tonight is chocolate pumpkin.
Wow.
What? Chocolate pumpkin.
Yeah, chocolate up in my pumpkin.
This is actually, chocolate and pumpkin actually really go together nicely. If you search Cavalcade of Food, you'll find a recipe for a chocolate pumpkin pie.
Yes, I remember
that everybody loves. And the pumpkin and the chocolate really marry well. And so we're going to do it in a cake form. Because this time of year we're all eating pumpkin pies, and that's great, and we love them. But this is just a little change up, one, to make a cake, but to have a cake that has pumpkin and chocolate in it. So, again, we're going to start with a Devil's Food cake mix, okay? Whatever your favorite brand is, go right ahead and use that, okay? So that goes in. Then we're going to add to that a teaspoon of baking soda.
That's just a little insurance your mom taught you.
Yes, just to make sure we get a good rise.
Because she says you never know how long
these box mixes have been sitting around the store. Then a teaspoon of soda, a teaspoon of baking powder.
Got it.
And I'm going to also put in another good spice that goes well with pumpkin and chocolate.
Cocoa.
Cinnamon.
Oh.
So we're going to put a teaspoon of cinnamon in here
now,
too.
Could you, if you wanted to really chocolate it up, add some cocoa?
Well, I guess you could. You know, there's cocoa in the cake mix. That's why it's brown. All right. So then we need 2 eggs. And I have these eggs. They're not in water because I'm washing them. They're in water because I was bringing them up to room temperature. I had them in the fridge. I forgot to take them out earlier. And a good way to do that is to just put eggs in room temp water for about 5 minutes in a bowl, and they'll come right up to temperature. All right?
Got it.
So we got 2 eggs in there, and then we can't have a pumpkin chocolate cake without pumpkin. So I've got a standard 15-ounce can here of pumpkin. Now don't use the pumpkin pie mix, please. Use just the pumpkin puree. Okay?
And check the side label, because sometimes there's more than pumpkin in there. There's some other type of squash.
Yeah, you were telling me that somebody was complaining that a lot of times the canned pumpkin actually isn't pumpkin.
Yeah,
although pumpkin is a squash.
It is, but I heard on a radio recipe thing where somebody was saying that always check the side label to make sure it's 100% pumpkin.
Ingredients, pumpkin. Okay? So, pride of the Midwest. Oh, so now we're going to, in addition to our pumpkin, we need a little oil in here. The pumpkin also, by the way, is going to provide a ton of moisture to this cake.
Yeah, pumpkin's got a lot of water in it.
So we're going to put 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil in here. Now we're good. Okay? So, here we go. Get our mixer. Get this going. It's a thick batter because there's not a lot of liquid here, obviously, because we're just really, other than the eggs and the oil, the pumpkin is really providing the bulk of the moisture. So work this slowly, and you'll see it's a thick batter.
Oh yeah, it's starting to get nice and chocolatey looking.
Yep, but it's moistening as we go. I'm going to keep at this, and we'll come back when I've got it all totally mixed. So Ralph, I'm just going to spray this bundt pan here with baking spray, which is basically oil and flour. Okay, and I'm going to do this cake in this bundt pan. I actually think it works nicely as a bundt cake.
Okay, before you do, I have a question.
Yes.
So the pumpkin that was in the can, that pumpkin filling,
Pumpkin puree.
did it have any spices in it, or do you
No.
Do you need to add, like, would somebody want to add pumpkin spices if they liked pumpkin spices?
You could.
You know,
you
like
could,
the traditional.
I know, like in but everything now is like pumpkin or pumpkin pie spice, right? Crazy pumpkin spice, everything.
Yeah, which means really just like not
We
the
added
pumpkin, but the spice.
We added cinnamon.
Oh, okay. But I'm saying the pie filling itself didn't have any particular spices.
No, because I did not use the pumpkin pie filling.
Oh, I
only
see.
used the
Pure
pumpkin
puree.
puree.
Right, I see what you're saying. Okay.
That's why I said you don't want to use the pumpkin pie filling for this recipe.
I see.
The pumpkin pie filling has all those spices in it.
And they might clash with the
Well,
chocolate.
you may not want it in with it. And I never buy that pumpkin pie filling because I like to put in, I don't like all the cloves and the nutmeg and the allspice and I just like cinnamon.
We like it real basic.
Yeah, maybe a little nutmeg in my pie.
That's how our moms used to make it.
Yeah, real simple.
Yeah. And just the slightest bit of other flavors like cinnamon or maybe a touch of nutmeg, but not. It's often overpowering. And then the other thing I was going to ask you about is, like, so I don't have a electric mixer at home, and it would be just mixing by hand until it was all wet.
Be a good workout.
Until it was all integrated. Oh,
yeah.
Do you think it'd be hard?
No, I mean, you could do it, Ralph.
Okay.
You could. You're strong. Okay.
I'm saying one could if they didn't have an electric mixer.
Right.
And I could. Okay, great.
But the electric mixer obviously makes it a lot easier.
Quicker.
Okay. So we've got it in our bundt pan. We're going to put this. I'm actually not doing this in the oven. I'm doing it in my automatic roaster oven here. Yes, because I'm using the oven for something else. I've got this set at 350 degrees, and we are going to let it go for 35 minutes or so, and then check on it.
So a roaster can be used as an oven.
It is really an oven.
Okay.
Actually.
I always think of it as using it for like turkeys and stuff.
And it's great for stuff like that, but it's actually a second oven in the kitchen, and it's wonderful for things like this.
Great.
So anyways, we'll come back in about 35 minutes at 350 and see how our chocolate pumpkin cake Ralph, we checked the cake at 35 minutes. It was not quite there. We did the old toothpick test.
Because of all that wetness of the pumpkin?
It was still a little wet in the center, so we let it go another 10, 12 minutes, and so now it's ready. Let me turn the roaster off.
What if there was a turkey in there?
Wouldn't that be funny? How do you turn a cake into a turkey? All right, so, but you can see, one, it springs back. Two, it's pulling away from the side. So
it smells really good.
All the telltale signs of being done.
Ready, yep.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this hang out for 10 minutes in the cake pan. Then I'll invert it and take it out of the cake pan and let it cool completely.
And it'll come out nice and easy. That's why you put so much of that
yes, it
spray
should release without any problem. And then, once it's cooled, we will make a icing, our cake for it.
It's time for that magical icing on the bundt cake.
It's cool. Look at that. I'm going to transfer it to a plate.
Chocolate pumpkin.
Now, this is an icing, not a frosting, okay? So we don't want it like so thick,
right? Because it's
that
meant
you
to
have
drip.
to spread, right? So I'm going to start with about half. I'm going to start with like a cup here of powdered sugar. Then to that, we're going to add two things, Ralph. Get a spoon. Cocoa.
Yum.
So that will bring the chocolate in to the
proceedings.
And then our friend cinnamon. We're going to put a little of that in there too. Then first what I'm going to do is we're going to sort of whisk this together. I want to get the lumps out, the clumps out. it'll all dissolve. But, okay. See that?
Mm-hmm. Smoothing it out.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're going to, so I'll put in a little bit more cocoa. I really want this nice and chocolatey. So I probably put in maybe all told, a quarter cup of cocoa here to our cup of powdered sugar. Now, milk.
Just out of the fridge, cold milk?
Just out of the fridge, cold milk. I'm going to put in a couple of tablespoons here.
A little bit at a time.
See, the thing about making icing is you can always make it thicker by, if it's too thin, by adding a little more milk.
Thicker? You mean?
Well, I don't want it too thin.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want it so that it's watery, right? And you don't want it too thick so that it doesn't. See how? Look how it's dripping
right.
off the whisk. That's what you want.
I was going to mention how quickly it kind of dissolved and got wet, and with that little bit of milk you put in there.
So I'm just going to keep. There's still a few little lumps in there I want to get out.
Does the friction of the stirring kind of loosen it up?
It does. Yeah, because it works that liquid into it.
Okay.
So, see that? And then as this dries,
it hardens.
It hardens.
So the only ingredients are powdered sugar, cocoa, milk, and a little cinnamon?
A little cinnamon. Now, we're going to give that a little taste. So it should be sweet. It should be chocolatey.
And you're good with the consistency?
Yes, and it should have a little bit of cinnamon spice. Yep.
Is it right where you want it?
Yeah. No, that's nice. Uh-huh.
All right,
okay.
let's get dripping. Let's get icing.
So now, this is of course a dark also because I'm using a dark cocoa. That's what I have on hand. If you used regular cocoa, it wouldn't be quite
like
this dark.
More of a milkier
right.
chocolate. Okay.
So now I'm going to get a little spatula here, and we're just going to put this over the top of the cake.
And let gravity
exactly.
Let gravity do the rest.
Yeah.
What were we going to say? It'll take
gravity.
Oh, it'll take a little on top, and then the rest is physics.
So we're going to...
The rest is science.
Kind of just... You want to make one full round here.
Boy, does that look good. It's so shiny and creamy looking.
Yeah, isn't it?
Icing.
Now, unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait until tomorrow to eat this.
Company.
So keep this airtight in a cake keeper or some sort of sealable
Something
thing.
tells me you have just the ticket.
And there. How's that?
Isn't
that beautiful?
Thing of beauty.
There it is, folks. Not we started with a box mix and a can of pumpkin, a couple eggs, a little oil, and some cinnamon. And the combination of the chocolate and the pumpkin and the cinnamon is just wonderful.
And it's so simple, like you said, and such a beautiful dessert.
And a simple icing on it, okay? Because again, a frosting actually would be overkill with this cake.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of pulls out more of the flavors of the cake. It's the chocolate, it's got the little cinnamon, and it has the sweetness.
Right, it's not going to overpower it because you're going to get that pumpkin and chocolate with just the sweetness of the topping.
Yeah. So anyways, there it is. Our chocolate pumpkin cake. You know what? We hope you had a good time being with us. We had a great time putting this together.
Sure did.
Cannot wait to dig into this cake. And you know what? We'll see you next time right here on Cavalcade of Food. Bye, everybody.